Blue Point, New York, a quiet, close-knit town on Long Island. Gabby Petito, a 22-year-old, was an adventurous spirit, passionate about travel and storytelling, with dreams of becoming a successful travel blogger. Her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, a 23-year-old, lived in Northport, Florida, with his parents. He shared her love for nature and art, often sketching during their travels. In July 2021, the couple embarked on a cross-country road trip in Gabby's white Ford Transit van, documenting their journey on social media. What began as a dream road trip across America's national parks would soon spiral into a chilling true crime tragedy. Before we dive into this case, we'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support means a lot. Let's get started. Gabrielle Venora Petito, known to her loved ones as Gabby, was born on March 19, 1999, in Blue Point, New York. She grew up in a close-knit community on Long Island, surrounded by family and friends who adored her. As the eldest child of Nicole Schmidt and Joseph Petito, she experienced her parents' divorce at a young age, but both remained actively involved in her life. She shared a strong bond with her younger half-siblings and was known for her warm and caring nature. Gabby's childhood was filled with laughter, love, and a sense of adventure, as she developed a deep appreciation for the world around her. From an early age, Gabby showed a creative spirit and a passion for storytelling. She loved photography, writing, and capturing special moments through video, always eager to share her experiences with others. Her adventurous personality was evident in her love for travel and exploration, often dreaming of visiting faraway places and documenting her journeys. In high school, she was known for her bright smile, infectious energy, and free-spirited nature, always encouraging those around her to embrace life's adventures. After graduating from Bayport Blue Point High School, Gabby initially pursued college but soon realized that her heart belonged elsewhere. She was drawn to a life of movement and discovery, inspired by social media influencers who documented their travels and experiences. Determined to carve her own path, she embraced the idea of van life, where she could explore nature, visit national parks, and share her journey with the world. Gabby's adventurous soul was matched by her deep empathy for others. She was kind-hearted and compassionate, always willing to lend a helping hand. She believed in spreading positivity and making meaningful connections with people she met along the way. Her dream was not just to travel but to inspire others to chase their passions and appreciate the beauty of the world. Her relationship with Brian Laundrie, whom she first met in high school, became a significant part of her journey. After reconnecting years later, they began a life together, embarking on a cross-country road trip that was meant to be an adventure of a lifetime. Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie set off on their long-awaited cross-country road trip in July 2021. 4 months, they had meticulously planned their adventure, envisioning a journey filled with breathtaking landscapes, new experiences, and memories that would last a lifetime. Gabby, with her passion for storytelling and travel, was particularly excited to document their experiences on social media, hoping to grow as a travel influencer. She carefully curated their posts, sharing scenic photographs and videos that showcased the beauty of their journey. Their chosen mode of travel was a 2012 white Ford Transit van, which they had converted into a camper, allowing them to embrace the free-spirited lifestyle that had become popular among travel bloggers. As they left Gabby's hometown in Blue Point, New York, and made their way across the country, their trip seemed to be everything they had hoped for. They traveled through Kansas, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming, visiting iconic landmarks such as the Great Sand Dunes National Park, Arches National Park, and Zion National Park. Gabby's Instagram became a visual diary of their travels, filled with pictures of wide-open deserts, majestic mountains, and serene lakes. She smiled in every photo, appearing to be living the dream, while Brian often remained behind the camera, taking in the scenery from the background. To outsiders, their journey seemed idyllic, a perfect escape into the wild, but behind the carefully crafted social media posts, the reality of their trip was far more complicated. As they spent weeks confined to their small van, tensions between them began to rise. The long hours on the road, the unpredictable nature of van life, and personal differences led to frequent arguments. The carefree couple that had set out on an adventure was beginning to crack under the pressures of isolation and stress. On August 12, 2021, while in Moab, Utah, their troubles became visible to the outside world. A distressed witness called 911 after seeing Brian physically assault Gabby outside a local grocery store. When police arrived, they pulled the couple over near the entrance of Arches National Park. The body cam footage from that day would later become infamous. Gabby was visibly shaken, crying uncontrollably as she tried to explain that she had been struggling with anxiety and stress. Brian, in contrast, appeared calm and collected, telling officers that Gabby had hit him first during a heated argument. Rather than treating the situation as domestic violence, the officers categorized it as a mental and emotional health crisis. They made the decision to separate the couple for the night, instructing Brian to stay in a hotel while Gabby remained with the van. The next morning, they reunited and continued their journey as if nothing had happened. However, this encounter with law enforcement would later be scrutinized, as many believed it was a missed opportunity to prevent the tragedy that was yet to come. After leaving Moab, the couple pressed on with their journey, but the cracks in their relationship had deepened. The cheerful Instagram posts continued, but Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt, noticed something was off during their phone calls. Gabby sounded anxious and upset, hinting that not everything was going well. Her last known conversation with her mother took place on August 25th, when she mentioned being in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. It was the last time anyone heard from her. On August 12, 2021, during their cross-country road trip, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie had a troubling encounter in Moab, Utah, an event that would later be seen as a critical missed warning sign. The incident began when a 911 caller reported seeing a man, later identified as Brian, slapping and hitting a woman in front of the Moonflower Co-op, a grocery store in Moab. The witness told dispatchers that the couple had been fighting, and the altercation had escalated into a physical confrontation. Shortly after, police officers from the Moab City Police Department located the couple's white Ford Transit van near the entrance of Arches National Park and initiated a traffic stop. The officers' body-worn cameras captured what became some of the most widely scrutinized footage in the case. The video showed Gabby crying uncontrollably, visibly distressed, while Brian remained composed and cooperative. When questioned separately, Gabby admitted that she had been struggling with anxiety and stress, and the two had been arguing throughout the day. Brian told the officers that Gabby had hit him first, explaining that he had been trying to keep her calm while they were arguing. He said that, at one point, he had pushed her away to create distance. Gabby, in her statement, appeared to take full responsibility, saying that she had been the one to start the fight because she was upset. She described the pressure she felt from documenting their travels on social media and how it had contributed to her emotional state. Despite the 911 caller's initial report that Brian had been hitting Gabby, the officers ultimately determined that the situation was not a case of domestic violence, but rather a mental/emotional health crisis. Instead of making arrests, the officers separated the couple for the night, instructing Brian to stay at a nearby motel while Gabby remained with the van. They advised them to take some time apart to cool down and avoid further conflict. However, no formal charges were filed, and the couple reunited the next morning to continue their trip. While this decision may have seemed reasonable at the time, in hindsight, many believe that the officers failed to recognize the warning signs of an abusive relationship. Critics later argued that law enforcement missed an opportunity to intervene, potentially preventing the tragic events that unfolded in the following weeks. This incident in Moab would later become one of the most controversial moments in Gabby Petito's case. When the footage was released to the public after her disappearance, domestic violence experts and the public alike questioned the handling of the situation. Many pointed out that Gabby displayed classic signs of a victim, blaming herself, appearing fearful, and downplaying the severity of the conflict, while Brian's calm demeanor suggested possible manipulative behavior. Tragically, just weeks later, Gabby would be reported missing, and Brian would return home to Florida alone, refusing to speak about what had happened. The disturbing encounter in Moab now stood as a haunting reminder of how small interventions can make a life-or-death difference in domestic violence cases. As Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie continued their journey, the open roads and breathtaking landscapes concealed the growing tensions between them. Their last known location together was in Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming, a place of serene beauty that would soon become the site of a tragic ending. Gabby's communication with her family, once frequent and affectionate, began to dwindle. On August 25th, she had a FaceTime call with her mother, Nicole Schmidt. She seemed happy and excited, talking about their travels. It would be the last time her family saw her alive. A few days later, the messages Gabby's family received became strange and unsettling. On August 27th, a text arrived from Gabby's phone saying, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Gabby's mother was immediately concerned. Stan was her grandfather, but Gabby never called him that. It was an unusual message, one that didn't sound like her daughter. This moment marked the beginning of a growing sense of dread for the Petito family. They attempted to reach Gabby again, but communication had become sporadic. As the days passed, the silence became deafening. There were no more Instagram posts, no more texts or calls filled with enthusiasm about the trip. The girl who had always kept her loved ones updated had seemingly vanished. On September 1st, Brian Laundrie returned to Florida alone. He arrived at his parents' home in Northport in Gabby's white van, but she was nowhere to be found. He gave no explanation and refused to speak about what had happened. The Petito family's concern turned into panic. They pleaded for information, but Brian and his family remained silent. On September 11th, Gabby was officially reported missing. Her disappearance quickly gained national attention, and soon, the search for answers became a desperate race against time. Then, on September 19th, the devastating truth was uncovered. In a remote area of the Bridger Teton National Forest, authorities found the remains of a young woman. The search was over. Gabby Petito was dead. The once hopeful and adventurous spirit that had set out on a journey across America had met a tragic fate. The dream she had documented so vividly had come to a heartbreaking end, and the man who had traveled beside her was now at the center of a mystery that gripped the nation. When Brian Laundrie returned to his parents' home in Northport, Florida, on September 1st, 2021, something was deeply unsettling. He arrived in Gabby Petito's white Ford Transit van, the same vehicle they had taken on their cross-country road trip, but Gabby was nowhere to be seen. The young woman who had documented every moment of their travels on social media had suddenly gone silent. There were no updates, no check-ins with her family, and no explanations from Brian. He simply walked into his parents' house and refused to say a word. Gabby's family, unaware of Brian's return, began to panic. They hadn't heard from their daughter in days, and every attempt to reach her had gone unanswered. When they finally discovered that Brian was home without her, their concerns turned to alarm. They repeatedly tried to contact Brian and his parents, desperate for any information about Gabby's whereabouts. But they were met with silence. No answers, no explanations, just a wall of refusal. As the days passed, the mystery deepened. Gabby's parents pleaded for help, going to the authorities in a desperate attempt to find their daughter. Meanwhile, Brian remained secluded inside his parents' home, shielded from the growing media frenzy outside. The fact that he had returned alone, in Gabby's van, while saying nothing about what had happened, raised suspicions across the country. People wanted to know, where was Gabby? And why wasn't Brian talking? On September 11th, the Petito family reported Gabby missing, launching an official investigation. The media picked up the story, and soon, the disappearance of Gabby Petito became a national obsession. Protesters gathered outside the Laundrie home, demanding answers. Online detectives combed through her social media posts, looking for clues. But Brian and his family remained silent. Then, in a move that shocked many, Brian Laundrie himself vanished. On September 13th, just 2 days after Gabby was reported missing, Brian allegedly told his parents he was going for a hike in the nearby Carlton Reserve. He never returned. The man who could have provided the answers to Gabby's disappearance had now disappeared himself, leaving behind more questions than ever before. On September 19, 2021, the search for Gabby Petito came to a tragic end. In the vast wilderness of Wyoming's Grand Teton National Park, authorities discovered human remains that matched Gabby's description. The body was found in a remote area near the Spread Creek dispersed camping site, a place the couple had visited during their trip. Law enforcement officials quickly secured the scene, and forensic experts were called in to confirm the identity. Within a day, the FBI announced that the remains were indeed those of 22-year-old Gabby Petito. The news sent shockwaves across the nation. The young woman whose bright smile and adventurous spirit had captivated social media was gone. Her disappearance had sparked a desperate search, but now, her family, friends, and the millions of people who had followed the case were met with a heartbreaking confirmation of her death. As authorities examined the scene, they found disturbing signs of violence. The area around Gabby's body suggested that a struggle had taken place. The discovery raised more urgent questions. How had she died? And who was responsible? An autopsy was conducted by the Teton County Coroner's Office, and the findings were grim. Gabby had been strangled to death. The medical examiner determined that she had been killed approximately 3 to 4 weeks before her body was discovered, meaning she had likely died in late August. The cause of death pointed to an act of extreme violence, reinforcing suspicions that she had been the victim of foul play. As investigators pieced together the timeline of events, one fact became increasingly clear. Brian Laundrie, the man who had traveled across the country with her, was now the prime suspect. The discovery of Gabby's body intensified the manhunt for Brian, who had disappeared from his parents' Florida home just days earlier. Law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, launched an extensive search operation, scouring the Carlton Reserve, the area where Brian was last seen. The public outcry grew louder. People demanded justice for Gabby, questioning why Brian's parents had remained silent and why he had been allowed to leave without being questioned further. Social media exploded with theories, discussions, and calls for action. The heartbreaking discovery of Gabby's body marked a turning point in the case, transforming it from a missing person investigation into a nationwide pursuit for the truth, and for the person responsible for her murder. After Gabby Petito's body was discovered in Wyoming, law enforcement quickly turned their attention to the one person who could provide answers, Brian Laundrie. However, Brian had vanished. His parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, told police that he had left their home in Northport, Florida, on September 13, 2021, to go hiking in the nearby Carlton Reserve. They claimed they had not seen him since. What initially seemed like a disappearance soon turned into one of the most intense manhunts in recent history. The Carlton Reserve, a vast and dense wilderness spanning over 25,000 acres, became the center of the search. Authorities combed through the swamps, battling thick vegetation, deep waters, and dangerous wildlife, hoping to find any sign of Brian. The FBI, local police, and other agencies worked tirelessly, deploying drones, K-9 units, and dive teams. As days passed without any solid leads, the public grew increasingly frustrated. Many believed Brian's parents were not being completely honest about his whereabouts, sparking widespread speculation and outrage on social media. The case had already gained national and international attention, with millions following every update. Protesters gathered outside the Laundrie family home, demanding answers. The media coverage was relentless, with news outlets broadcasting 24/7 updates, interviews, and analysis. Meanwhile, online communities dissected every detail, tracking possible sightings and theorizing about Brian's escape route. Some speculated he had fled the country, while others believed he was hiding in a remote location, avoiding capture. Weeks passed with no sign of Brian. As the search continued, The FBI issued a federal arrest warrant for him, not for Gabby's murder but for unauthorized use of her debit card after her death. This allowed law enforcement to escalate their efforts and legally detain him if found. However, despite numerous reported sightings across different states, none were confirmed. Then, on October 20, 2021, over a month after Brian had gone missing, authorities made a breakthrough. In a previously submerged area of the Carlton Reserve, investigators discovered human remains along with a backpack, notebook, and other personal belongings belonging to Brian. Dental records later confirmed that the remains were his. The manhunt had come to an unexpected and tragic end. With Brian dead, many questions remained unanswered. The discovery of his remains brought some closure but also left lingering doubts about what truly happened between him and Gabby in those final moments. The case, which had captured the world's attention, ended without a trial, leaving Gabby's family and the public to piece together the truth from the fragments that remained. Gabby Petito's tragic death sent shockwaves across the world, leaving a lasting impact that extended far beyond her family and friends. As the investigation concluded and Brian Laundrie's remains were found, the focus shifted to understanding the broader implications of the case. Gabby's story sparked widespread discussions about domestic violence, media bias, and the role of social media in criminal investigations. Her family, devastated by their loss, dedicated themselves to ensuring that Gabby's death would not be in vain. In the months following the case, Gabby's parents, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, turned their grief into action by establishing the Gabby Petito Foundation. The foundation was created to support victims of domestic violence and missing persons cases, raising awareness and providing resources to those in need. Gabby's mother, Nicole, became a vocal advocate for change, calling for better protections for individuals in abusive relationships. Through public appearances, interviews, and social media campaigns, the Petito family worked to bring attention to the warning signs of toxic relationships and the importance of early intervention. Law enforcement agencies across the country also took a closer look at how they handled domestic disputes. The police encounter between Gabby and Brian in Moab, Utah, just weeks before her death, raised serious questions about the response of officers to domestic violence incidents. Body cam footage showed Gabby visibly distressed, yet Brian was treated as the victim. Many experts argued that law enforcement needed better training to recognize signs of coercive control and emotional abuse, which are often less visible than physical violence. In response to public outcry, several police departments reviewed and revised their procedures for handling similar situations. Social media played a crucial role in the case, both in raising awareness and influencing the investigation. The massive online attention led to crucial evidence being uncovered, including the viral video from travel vloggers that helped locate Gabby's remains. The case demonstrated the power of digital communities in solving crimes, but also highlighted concerns about online speculation and misinformation. Gabby's story became a symbol of how the internet can amplify voices and bring justice, but also how it can sometimes lead to harassment and unfounded accusations. Even after the case was officially closed, Gabby's name remained in the public consciousness. Documentaries, podcasts, and news specials continued to analyze her story, shedding light on the warning signs of abusive relationships. Her parents continued their advocacy, working with lawmakers and organizations to push for policy changes that would better protect victims of domestic violence. The phrase, "Justice for Gabby," became more than just a slogan. It became a movement to help others avoid a similar fate. Gabby's legacy endures not only as a cautionary tale but as a source of inspiration for change. Her story, though heartbreaking, became a rallying cry for awareness, education, and action against domestic abuse. While nothing could undo the tragedy that took her life, her family's dedication ensured that her voice would continue to be heard, making a difference in the lives of others who may be silently suffering. Gabby Petito's story raised awareness about domestic violence, inspiring advocacy, policy changes, and ongoing efforts to protect abuse victims worldwide.